Alright guys, 1 million cute points were raised in order to do a HotS balance patch live on stream. So this is going to be on Twitch and it's going to be on YouTube. And basically people have been gathering for 14 days. We just made the community goal in 11 days, so congrats. I've been thinking about giving my thoughts on the 89 different heroes that we have in Heroes of the Storm. And been wanting to give my thoughts on some balance changes for each one, if any. Changes I'd like to see, and hopefully we can get some nice ideas that possibly the developers can even look at it and say, hey, that's pretty neat. So I want to do my part, you guys did your part, let's begin. So first of all, let's look at Abathur. Abathur has a talent called Mule that repairs structures. I've found this talent not to be very fun. I don't think it's great gameplay. All the other heroes that had it have already had it removed, and I'd like to see the same for him. Other than that, I don't really have much to remark on Abathur. For Vikings, I have the following idea. Each Viking gives only 50% XP contribution of the lane that he is in. If you want to get the full XP contribution for minions of a lane that you're in, you need to have minimum 2 Vikings. So if you split your Vikings 1-2, they would get 150% XP of the available lane XP in one lane. They would get 1.5 lane XP out of 3. If you split them 1-1-1, they get half as much XP as they are currently getting in the current live version of the game. This is because I feel like it's really toxic that they can get so much XP from 3 different lanes while 4 players are going around in a ganking death squad making kills. I don't think it's very fun. I don't think it rewards the theory of Vikings either, where you're supposed to be able to micro them, and one is the tank and one is the DPS and one is fast. It doesn't actually play like that. They're just a soaking machine, and I don't think it's very fun. Half their XP contribution from lane, but then give them a button that forcibly splits them, just like in Command & Conquer. When you press X, they split in 3 different directions. That makes it easier for them, makes it easier for the average player to micro them, to dodge chain bomb, dodge AoE, and so on and so forth. When you give them tools like that, you can increase their team fighting power a little bit, and I think it'd be fun. Scatter, yeah. For Medivh, I think Protected generally is quite a strong mechanic. I'd like it to just absorb 75%. I think he should have a 75 armor, not entirely protected. I think it's a little bit too extreme, and if that does exist, maybe it has to be increased cooldown in general, or don't give CDR. He's a bit too strong with that at the pro play, and then you can just give him more damage really in order to compensate, because right now he's a pro coordinated hero only, but he can't be used much in Storm League. So I think just make him more of a DPS and a little bit less leaning into that protected. He'll still be unique enough. Zarya, I don't have anything to remark. I think she's working well. Let's talk about healers. I think Uther is working out pretty well. I think he's strong, but I don't have much to remark on him in terms of his balance. I think he's in a pretty good spot. He's got strengths and weaknesses. Tyrande, I think likewise. She's almost viable, or maybe viable. Not much to remark on her. She's got a stun, she's got vision, damage, healing. She works out pretty well. So is Malfurion. Not much to remark. Emerald Dream could be nerfed a little bit, and then I think you're mostly fine. Just the fact that there is a half-second stun, a root, and a silence, all on one single talent and ability, I think it's a bit much. Lily's issue is that she has no area of effect healing. Her heal goes to a single target untargeted, and this is by design. So she's mostly a damage dealer and a second healer. If we want her to be a solo healer, she needs to have some form of healing before level 20 that can affect all allies around her. Mistweaver finally gives her that. I would recommend bringing Mistweaver to level 13 and then moving something here to level 20. Then she can start AoE healing a bit better. Brightwing, I think Brightwing Polymorph maybe should be slightly shorter range. Like, I like the role that she fills in shutting down heroes like Tracer and Genji. She's really ubiquitously useful right now, and she's strong. You see her picked a lot, played a lot. Maybe this should be only minus 20 armor. It's quite strong for a point and click. And maybe by making the range shorter, she runs more risk of doing that to someone. It's still point and click. It's by far the best CC to shut down melee assassins and so on. Yeah, for the rest, I think Emerald Wind can be buffed. It's not a very good heroic for her right now. Blink Heal keeps her safe and others. M-Wind is really gimmicky. And I don't know exactly how to change it. Perhaps. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe if you could choose... no. Maybe if you could choose to make it go inwards to pull everyone towards her. Or outwards, 2 options. Then that would be really cool utility. But possibly game breaking. Reghar is only good because he has wave clear. For the rest, he's really lackluster as a healer. I think his talent tree is uninteresting. He has really serious mana issues if you don't go Stormcaller. So, yeah, I think with tidal waves, it's helped a little bit to have some mana sustain for Q build. But if you don't get Stormcaller and you go Healing Totem, you just have serious mana issues. Maybe this Feral Heart should be buffed a little bit. The fact that it gives 75 while in Ghost form is nice, but maybe it should also give 25 while he's in normal form. And that would help him a lot. Then you can try like Bite build. Next hero, Kharazim. Kharazim Iron Fist is in a good spot. It sees pro play and it sees play in ladder. In Storm League, Kharazim as a solo healer generally is not a great idea. And in pro play, he only gets picked for Iron Fist. Because of this, I think it's really simple to buff him for Storm League without breaking him in Storm League. Without breaking him in pro play. Just buff Transcendence, maybe Insight. I think you can just remove the quest from Insight and just make it baseline. And if that's too strong, you can have 1.5 seconds CDR instead of 175. And Transcendence has a design issue. When you need healing, you need to punch enemy heroes or minions near them. And then you'll take more damage and then you'll need more healing again. Because of this design flaw, I'm not sure if Transcendence will ever work out well. Iron Fist is even... Insight is even easier to use. But maybe just buff it a bit numerically and see how it goes. Lieutenant Morales. The best thing I would say for Lieutenant Morales is buff Trauma Trigger a bit. Getting just 40 armor for 3 seconds while you're already that low means that you get very small effective health buff. It's on a 30-second cooldown. You don't choose when you trigger it. You may sometimes drop under 40 without being in true risk. And when you are in true risk, 40 armor on 40% of her health is like a few hundred points of health the most. This talent is not strong. And part of what makes Morales unpickable is because of Focus Morales. Cellular Reactor does that job a lot better. Shorter cooldown, you can choose it when you want. And yeah, it can be used when you're like 80% health still, so you're far more likely to get value out of it. But it costs energy. I'd say Trauma Trigger could get a bit of a buff. Auriel. I think Auriel's interesting. Mostly when I see her on Storm League, she gets picked with damage talents. It's people that are basically, they got the mechanics of a DPS player, but they're forced into heal and they pick her. And I see them having fun with it. She has some talents that are ignored and not that good. Heavy Burden could get a buff. And see if that's any good. Increasing Clarity is pretty weak. Searing Light is generally picked for damage, not the Clarity. And Righteous Assault is pretty strange as well. Swift Sweep is the safest choice, but it's also boring. I would recommend just removing Swift Sweep and giving like 25% more baseline sweep speed and then see how that goes. Of course, that would be a blanket buff. She doesn't get played a lot, but she's part of some toxic comps because she doesn't have a definitive mana pool. So I'm not sure you really want to mess with her. Crystal Aegis is still the better ult. Lucio. For Lucio, he's still very strong. And in a way that's fine. He's unique. Unique design is good. If you need a hero that gives movement speed to others, he's your guy. I just think his level 16 is still too strong. Up the frequency. Getting like 7+ auto attack range and having that CDR has amped it up. which gives massive healing, feels way too powerful. Up the frequency, the moment I get this as Lucio, especially if I combine it with smooth moves and not Accelerando, I never run out of mana, I never run out of massive heals. And he already has such unique utility in loads of cleanses or an AoE shield. He gives movement speed, he's very fast, hard to catch. Up the frequency just fills a weakness of AoE sustained burst heals that is just too powerful in general. Stukov. Stukov is insane right now. This is also called Earthquake sometimes. You can walk up, generally any hero's auto attack range, press one button, then press another button, and everyone gets slowed for, what is it? How much is that slow? 70%. You can walk in the middle of everyone, press two buttons, and get a massive heal that gives you armor and slows 5 enemy players for 70%. I think that is insane. He was changed a bit in how reactive Ballista Spores worked. It's actually supposed to be called proactive Ballista Spores now because it's an active, not a reactive anymore. It doesn't trigger when he's low or anything, which gives even more agency to Stukov players. I think it's too strong. Ana. Ana, I've long felt that 100% healing denial should not be a thing for any hero in the game. I don't think it's fun, and I think it's potentially too breaking of the game. Her biotic, in my opinion, should be minus 75%, not minus 100. Alexstrasza. I would just say delay the Seed of Healing from 3 seconds to either 2 or 2.5. And while you do that, she will become a much better healer that can be picked more often around her ultimate and her trait, the Dragon Queen and the Cleansing Flames and the Lifebinder. Lifebinder is actually low-key busted, especially the level 20. But she doesn't see much play because of the big delay on Abundance. Q is fine, it's a generic heal that does cost her health. You can counterplay that with talents. But the W's delay keeps her out of the game. Once you buff that, she will become way more viable, which also means you need to bust her second biggest OP build, which is when people go for the E build, and then pick up Draconic Discipline and Ancient Flame. And I think Ancient Flame is busted. If you have Ancient Flame and Draconic, you're constantly healing yourself, doing a massive 50% slow on everyone, on every single Dragon Queen auto attack. I think that's too much. I don't know how to nerf it exactly, but I would just caution that if Blizzard changes this from 3 to 2, they need to look at Ancient Flame. Remove it or nerf it in some way. And then we go to Anduin. I think Anduin rework was interesting, but it kind of missed the mark in giving a lot of different build options. A lot of people are still just spamming W. Actually, I take it back. I have seen some different builds. I've seen Power Word Shield, Lightwell, and this. I've seen Binding Heal. I think Binding Heal is weak. Blessed Recovery is weak. I think only Desperate Prayer is his level 7, his only level 7 valid choice. All these 3 seem kind of okay. And here these 2 seem okay. Both level 10s are fine. All these 3 are fine, if a bit generic. These all seem fine as well. No, I think his rework was good actually. I take it back. He's interesting. All the level 20s too. I think it's a really successful rework actually. And now I'm gonna drink some water and then we continue with melee assassins. Yes. And the final 2 healers, Whitemane and Deckard. So Whitemane, I still miss her old pre-rework version. I don't think she's as fun now as before. I don't think juggling, desperation works out just as well as before. But she's still an interesting hero. I wish we would see her more, but when you see people one-trick her, as she is a little bit more complicated and difficult, she often seems effective. I think she's one of the most interestingly designed healers, and overall I would say she's fine, but she suffers from some must-pick talents. As a ambitious, improving or aspiring good player, Pity the Frail is pretty much the only choice. As is Martyrdom. That means that Unwavering Faith, Indulgence, Righteous Flame, and Inquisitor's Prayer never see play. Maybe an ARAM. And for level 7, it's pretty much Cleanse is required, which means you don't see the others. And at level 10, both are good. Level 13, these two are both good. I've never tried Scarlet Wrath. And these two are good too. And I've never tried Radiance, but it looks okay actually. So mostly I would change her level 1 and 4. The fact that allies below 30% health receive a quarter more healing from Whitemane is the sold deal on this. And to give space to these two, they would need to baseline it. Allies below 25% health receive 20% more healing from Whitemane. Always. Part of her trait. And then just leave the other parts of this talent and have that be a talent. And then you can either go for Pity the Frail, Righteous Flame, or Inquisitor's Prayer. That will be my suggestion for Whitemane. For Deckard, I think Sapphire is busted. The slow should only be increased by 20% perhaps, not by 30%. Field Study is making his weak early game better. And it's hard to actually hit Field Study without allied setup and without Sapphire. So these two on the same tier makes this one preventing it from being overpowered. And same issue with Scroll of Identify. Hard to hit without Sapphire. Sapphire is one of his best abilities. And I think it's too strong. Should be 10% less slow. Not much to say about some of the other tiers. Emerald is doing healing debuff the way it's supposed to be, 75%. These are all fine. All of these are valid options. Valid options as well. And because Deckard isn't overpowered right now, nerfing Sapphire would nerf the hero in general. So you can buff something random on him somewhere else. Melee Assassins. Yeah, I don't play as many Melee Assassins. So it's a bit harder to dive deep into some of them. And they're also kind of game breaking when they're too strong. I'll try to keep it short here. Okay, let's start. Melee Assassins are like a feast or famine category in general. Alarak, when he has sadism, he can feel OP. When he hasn't got any, he can feel weak. Same with Butcher and Meat. So that is tough. But let's start at Zeratul. I think Zeratul is useless in most people's hands and too strong at the pro play. There are a few heroes that are more like. Actually, I say that, but there's very few pros that can make him look OP as well. Yeah. Zeratul, I don't know. He's got too much damage, too many blinks. But I don't know how to fix him. Don't know how to change him. Maybe some nerf on Psionic Strength. It's easier to counterplay Cleave Void Prison build in a way than the Psionic Strength thing. For this one, it's like, for full Cleave build, it's like, don't group up too much. All the time. And that is stressful, but it's valid. For Psionic Strength single target stickiness, he just deletes people. I think they should nerf a little bit Psionic Strength. 5% stacking up to 25%. And then Master Warblade, maybe 100% instead of 125. Kerrigan. Kerrigan seems to be in a pretty good spot. Her win rate is in a good spot. I don't think she has amazing talent diversity. Some are clearly better than others, like Fury of the Swarm is better. Sharpened Blaze is better. Psionic Pulse is just weird. Maelstrom is pretty weak. Queen of Blades is now weird. But I think she's got some pretty decent choices, and her win rate's in a good spot. Can you combo? You can play Kerrigan. If you don't know how to combo, don't play her. It's fine. Illidan, I think he's in a good spot, which is barely useful. The moment he gets good, he gets overpowered again, so just keep him where he is. For Murky, I would advocate for Murky to double his XP given from a quarter to half of a hero. Give him 10% more life. and make it last 5 seconds longer till he comes back from the egg. It just is too frustrating for most people to constantly kill the buffer, kill the Murky, kill the buffer, kill the Murky, because it's boring. You don't get any satisfaction from killing him for a quarter of the XP of a hero. It's he's actually top 5 melee assassins in my opinion among these 10. But it's mostly because it's boring to play against him. People just leave lane. And to help games feel better, I want my solo laners not to abandon lane against him. And that might help. Butcher. Yeah, what can be said about Butcher? I think they can buff Q build, Flail Axe, Invigoration, Brutal Strike, Crippling Slam, some kind of poke. So that when you get super countered, you can first pick him, you get super countered, and you do something decent from a distance. Cleaver can be buffed. It's useless compared to Brutal Strike. And not much to say about the other talents. All of them are fine. They're pickable. Even Crippling Slam is pickable in theory. I think Furnace Blast can be buffed a bit. Maybe like 5% damage. Because Lamp is much better. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Not big changes. Alarak. I think Alarak is in a pretty good spot. 30% slow, 3 seconds. Yeah, I think he's in a good spot. You need to play him well, and he has counterplay. Mainly long-range heroes like Hanzo, Junkrat, they counterplay him. Samuro. I'm glad that they nerfed his split push ability. I think it has been enough. I think Samuro is less annoying than he was before, which is good. Valeera. She's really tanky. And she's effective. She doesn't get played a lot. And when she does get played, either she gets played poorly and she's useless, or someone actually knows how to play her and she becomes an interesting element. I think she's in a good spot. But I don't know enough about her to give talent feedback. Maiev. I have Maiev very highly ranked, but she's so hard to play. And she doesn't get played as much. She's kind of like where Zeratul is, the best 2 melee assassins, but really hard to play, so you don't see her much. I don't know if I would change anything. Like, my instinct says nerf, but then she sees so little play, she's so useless in most people's hands, that I'm not sure that she should be nerfed. So, we move on. Kira. Kira is a little bit weak. She had some buffs recently. I think she's pretty fun. And she's definitely not OP to play against. Not every hero can be equally good, and she is not the best. Maybe it's okay. Not much to say about her. Moving on to ranged assassins. Tassadar. I think he's in a good spot. He's got utility, he's got range, burst, AoE, mana sustain. But he's really squishy and he has wind-ups. He's in a good spot. Falstad. I have one thing for Falstad. Nerf ranged Mosh Pit. It is just as good as Mosh Pit if you do it into a wall. It's so much easier to hit than Mosh Pit. On a much shorter cooldown. Nerf the shit out of it. This should be 70 seconds at least. Maybe 80. That's how good it is. And wind tunnel should say create a wind tunnel for 2 seconds. And not be as long. Or the time between pulses should be shorter, so that people that own an escape can use it. It's good enough to push someone into a wall and force them to ice block for 3 seconds so they don't continually get buffeted and owned. You can't even press ice block, that's how ranged mosh pit it is. Maybe 3 seconds or 2.5. 2 might be not enough. But 4 is insane. This talent is insane. It's game winner. Vala. I actually feel that Vala in most people's hands right now is a little weak. I've not been impressed with Vala's recently, which feels like... I think she's been nerfed enough. I think she's in a good spot. Sergeant Hammer. For Hammer, I think she will get in a better spot if you allow her to unsiege and siege maybe an eighth of a second faster. That's it. She can actually see some play both in competitive and Storm League. Her main counters are over half the roster of mobility heroes and mages that can pelt her with spells from afar. Just allow her to siege and unsiege slightly faster. Raynor, he's had like a million reworks. He still plays exactly the same as before, despite the reworks. It's fine, that's just how he is. He can't help it. But right now he feels a little weak sauce. I think he just needs slightly more damage. But you don't want to overdo it because he's so easy to play. Just give him like 3% bonus auto attack damage. Nova, she's in a fine spot. For some reason people pick her in Platinum and below. Let them have fun with it. She's not very good, she has no wave clear. Clear weaknesses. Low strengths. People still like to play her. Good for them. Nazeebo actually sidled up to top 3 win rates in terms of ranged DPS at the moment in the latest patch across all leagues. In Grandmaster Master, he's top 35 heroes among all classes, which makes him what? Maybe top 5, top 10 DPS range damage dealer. So that makes him a little overpowered now. Not to the same order that Zagara was, but a little strong. It's easy to fix him. He has the same utility, weaknesses, strengths as before. Just Spider build got buffed a lot. It's the main reason for his rise. Just nerf the spider damage a bit. And then he will be a valid damage dealer. Not too weak, not too strong. Don't nerf it by 50% neither, Blizzard. Just nerf spider damage. The buff that he gets from the talent by like, instead of 30%, can be like 20%. And make the slow 25% instead of 30%. And then I think you're good. Tychus. Tychus feels like an important role in killing tanks that cannot be killed by almost anything else. When you see an enemy Stitches or a Diablo in Pro Play and in Storm League, but Pro Play draft better, right? You need a Tychus. If you don't get a Tychus, who else do you get that can do what he does? Leoric? Malthael? There's other heroes with percentage damage, but they're not like Tychus. The fact that he's so important to deal with these two tanks, maybe it's these two tanks' issues. I would be loath to nerf Tychus without looking at other things. Zagara. Overbuffed, then over-nerfed. For Zagara, she has a lot of utility, and she has push power, and she has DPS, now much less than before. I think the healthiest way to buff Zagara, if you want to buff her again, because I think she's weak now. I think she dropped to like bottom win rates. She's maybe like bottom 20 right now. 6% more auto attack damage. That's it. And I think she's in a good spot. Azmodan. Azmodan has a lot of strengths. Good early game is not one of them. Good single target damage, following up on tanks, playing with the team are all not one of them. And considering his lore and his story, I think that's fine. He does his own thing, both in damage dealing, in PvP, as well as pushing the map. I wouldn't say he's too strong in any regard, but he's also not exactly too weak. So I think he's fine. He's got some talent diversity. He's very well designed right now. Jaina's actually top 3 Master and Diamond win rate. I'm surprised about that. She did have that buff to her level 7. Ice Flows. I don't think she's running rampant in the Nexus right now. Not a lot of people are picking it. And there's always got to be some heroes that are the strongest. You don't have to nerf them all. And I don't think it's fully understood either why we don't see her that much. So I'd say just keep her for now. I don't think she's insane. For Sylvanas, I've always been against Black Arrow. And it has been nerfed, which is good. But I still think it is unhealthy to be able to shut down structures entirely for 10 seconds. It should, in my opinion, just be like Warcraft 3 Orcish Batrider, which slows down building attack speed 80%. So they still attack with a speed of 20%. It doesn't shut it down entirely. And I think that's much healthier to sometimes get a shot in rather than none at all. That will prevent Sylvanas from walking up to a fort and auto-attacking it for 10 seconds. Instead, she will take like 2 shots from the fort as she does that, which means she will get a debuff in the armor, which makes it much more punitive for her to stand there. She's going to take a good amount of damage. Kael'Thas. Little low on the win rates and pick rates in the higher leagues, but very popular in the lower. I don't have anything to say about him. I think he's fine. He's got weaknesses. He's got strengths. He's in a good spot. Same with Lunara. Same with Greymane. Same with Li-Ming. Tracer's too strong. I think she should just be nerfed. I don't know exactly how. Less damage or something. She's the highest DPS win rate in Master Diamond. And whether or not Tracer owns you is totally up to the Tracer. There's nothing you can do against Tracer if you don't have Brightwing. And I don't think that's great. Chromie. Used to be very oppressive. Doesn't seem to be as much anymore, at least in Storm League. For some reason, I almost never see her, which is interesting. She sees some play in Storm League, in competitive, but she's not ubiquitously picked, which is interesting. She's probably in a good spot. Gul'dan. Fixes bugs, mainly. His hunger for power should give him more self-heal from things, but instead of 15% more self-heal, the Blizzard API and code studying people from Reddit and other places have found that he only gets 4% bonus healing from fountains, regen globes, etc. He's got bugs with hunger for power, and be nice if they get fixed. Zul'jin. Very oppressive at low play, fun and challenging and risky at high play. I think he's in a good spot. Probius. Way too powerful. Needs to be nerfed to the ground. Nah, Probius is in a pretty decent spot where he cannot chase. And he's not super reliable or fast with follow-up. But he does put out a lot of map pressure, and he can set traps. He feels like a perfect iteration of a worker unit turned Heroes of the Storm hero. So I say just keep him how he is. Cassia doesn't feel that strong to me, in fact a little weak, and I think that's fine. Any ranged hero with 30% bonus armor all the time while she's moving is pretty risky to be too strong. And her damage output has been nerfed enough that she's not like both a tank and a DPS anymore. Genji seems to be in a pretty good spot. Kel'Thuzad a little weak, but he's risky to buff. I prefer if it doesn't happen. Just keep him how he is. Junkrat is too strong. Where should the nerfs be concentrated? I think in Big Ass and Chattering Teeth. But the nerfs I have in mind for Junkrat go deeper. I think Concussive Mind should have a timer. The fact that you can put it on the enemy gate or on a boss point and have infinite scouting so long as you don't press D, even when you end up not using Concussive Mind, is insane. I think Concussive Mind should have a timer of 30 seconds. And Steel Trap also has no timer. It should have a timer of maybe 45 seconds. Let him recast it now and then if he wants to zone an area. It's too good. They need timers. That's my main feedback for Junkrat. Hanzo, hard to play, very fun, challenging, strong when played well. I think he's in a pretty good spot. He's super played at Pro Play actually. Probably one of the most valuable DPS in Pro Play. In Ladder, he's one of the least valuable. Low win rate at everywhere except Master because of his difficulty of playing. So, yeah. You could try to nerf him in Pro Play without affecting him in Casual. And that's already kind of been attempted by Blizzard when they touched some of his auto attack talents. I think he's fine. Phoenix. Phoenix without mobile offense is garbage. With mobile offense, he can be good. In order to keep interesting talent picks for him at level 1 and others, mobile offense needs to become baseline and deleted as a talent. If that's the way Blizzard wants him to be played, this is how he's going to be played. He's going to be the Cassia of damage. Cassia moves for armor, Phoenix should move for damage. And then I think you have a hero. And then you can pick other things like advanced targeting or arsenal synergy. It's really interesting to try to aim arsenal synergy at people. But it is so unrewarding to give up 35% straight up damage on everything else you do. So, baseline, my advice. Mephisto is overpowered. He's really overpowered. And people just aren't skilled enough to use him, I suppose. Which also goes for me, by the way. He's very hard to punish. He's very strong. Some of the main offenders of his kit are Spite. This is insane. You get like infinity ticks of CDR on your abilities from globes, removing the skill requirement of needing to connect PvP abilities. This needs to be deleted or reworked. And this one's pretty crazy too, Shard of Hate. And then Durance, the range. I think it should be reduced by 20%. It actually has insane range. It's like as much as graduating range siege Sergeant Hammer. It hits from across the screen when you can't even see him. Minus 20%. And that's it for Mephisto. Orphea. Orphea is also one of the higher win rate heroes, but again, hard to play, very punitive when she gets caught out of position. I think she's the type of hero that can never run rampant and be overpowered and uncounterable because of the risk she needs to take to cast her spells. And that makes her different than a hero like Tracer or Hanzo. Hanzo has the range to feel OP, can't counter him. And Tracer, because of her mobility and clicks, like being able to blink and recall and move while shooting, that will never be the case for Orphea. So while she's strong, she doesn't get played that much. I say keep her as she is, for now. Sonya, in a pretty good spot. Not much to say there. She has different builds for different walks of life. Gazlo, pretty good spot. Thrall, he's in a pretty good spot. Same with Chen. All of these bruisers are quite strong, but I can't put one too far above the other sometimes. Leoric feels a little strong. I don't know where or when or why you would want to address him. He is a bit strong, but he also fulfills an important role of killing tanks, whereas he can feel a little weaker against a lot of backline, which Entomb, Buried Alive can help with. Leoric feels a little strong. He puts a lot of map pressure, he's good against tanks, and then he has got that late game power spike with Buried Alive. You could nerf him, but I don't know if I would go so far as to do that. Reghar, he's strong but hard to play, not as many people play him. I find him a bit boring. He could be more fun, but I don't know how. Artanis. Good change with the Unstoppable. I like the swap Unstoppable a lot. He's almost useful. I think we should keep trying there. Zul. I wish Zul was a little bit less about janitoring the waves and more about team fighting. As it stands, he's a subpar team fighter and just an XP soaking machine. But he doesn't do that job as well as the Haka or Leoric, because the Haka and Leoric are really hard to catch, but when you catch Zul, you just kill him with 2 or 3 players. Whereas the Haka Leoric can get away from a gank of 2 or 3 players repeatedly, sometimes even get a kill, which is insane. And they clear just as well 2 lanes as Zul does. So that makes Zul not very effective in my opinion. He also never really encapsulated the lore feel of the Necromancer from Diablo, because he doesn't really work with skeletons too much. I think that's a pity. He's a bit more boring than he should be for such a cool iconic character. If there was a way to make him less good at PvE and a bit better at PvP, that would be fun, but I don't really have any ideas how right now. It would be cool if he had a flesh golem, but that's probably too late. Varian. Sea Smash is weak. Twin Blades is weak. Taunt is strong. Change, please. Don't know how. Ragnaros? I think Ragnaros is a little bit weak, but he's in a good spot because he can be very strong in Storm League due to his PvE and XP contribution. And he's fun enough to not feel boring in that way. A good Sulfurous Smash, a good Molten Core, good use of blistering attacks and how you proc the CDR of it can make him feel rewarding and fun. He's got different builds that are fun for different people. I think he's in a good spot. D.Va, good enough spot. Malfurion, he's got his strengths and weaknesses, he's fine. Auriel, there's one thing I want to say about Auriel. Seraphim, nerf. Cooldown on Imperius for this is 75 seconds, reducible by hitting some spells. For her 10 seconds. 75, 10. And I know Auriel's not for everyone because she's actually difficulty hard. She looks straightforward, but most people suck with her, and then people that actually play her well make her look super broken, unkillable the whole game long. Very good in pro play, not played much in Storm League, but Seraphim is insane. Just for the sake of my next cast, please do something about Seraphim. She walks up, and then she just does what she wants, press Seraphim, walks away. 8 seconds later, does the same thing. It's crazy. Cooldown 45 seconds, unstoppable 1.5 seconds. Imperius, he's in a pretty decent spot. Deathwing. I think Deathwing, well, going back, I don't think he should have ever been permanently unstoppable. I would have liked for Deathwing to be relentless all the time, which is minus 50% on all CDR, on all CC. But that's too late by now, and I think they did that because he's already so slow movement. Mainly for him, I would like to nerf Skyfall. It shouldn't be able to constantly interrupt objectives. Like if you take him on Garden of Terror, Towers of Doom, or places where you have to channel like that, he can stop the objective against 2 people channeling for like 10 seconds. Against one it's like 15-20 seconds or something. It's stupid. Because he cannot be affected. Oh, one more thing. Medivh shouldn't be able to pick up XP and globes while in Raven form. And because that is a nerf, he should be buffed somewhere else to compensate. Hogger. He got a lot weaker. Not a lot of people play him. You need to be very good to use him properly. I think he's in a pretty good spot. Next. Stitches. Master Hooker should not be minus 100% heal. Oh, it already isn't. Great. Good job. Stitches. Yeah, I think Stitches is fine. He's weak early game, he's strong late game. ETC, bit squishy. The main thing I want to say about ETC, Encore shouldn't work on his heroic that got put on a 10-second cooldown. It is, in my opinion, really problematic. When you see him do mosh pit, you interrupt him, it gets put on a 10-second cooldown, this thing procs once, and he immediately mosh pits again 1 second later. Right after you did that. I think that breaks something fundamental in heroic interruptions where you expect them to be 10 seconds. I feel like that 10-second period should be holy and not reducible by cooldowns. Only the main cooldown, but not this. For the rest, ETC feels a little lackluster. He's a little bit weaker. He's a hero that can't make any mistakes. Mosh pit is really hard to hit. Stage dive a bit easier, but he's squishy. He does have some damage. I don't know exactly how to buff him, but maybe the most fun way to buff him is a bit of extra damage in his hits. Then he becomes a really threatening, high risk, high reward, high damage, low survivability tank. It's not a bug. Tyrael. I think Tyrael's in a good spot. Murden. I hope they just remove Perfect Storm. Some people find it fun, but 1, it's weak, which means 2, allies picking it as bait, and it makes them play like not a tank. It's stupid. Just call him a bruiser and put him in the bruiser category if you want him to deal damage. I don't think tanks should have level 1 auto-attacking quest that gives them a bit of bonus Stormbolt damage. And it's really underwhelming. If this was to be a good talent, it should do twice as much buffing as it does now. You'll routinely see allied Muradins with anywhere from 30 to 65 stacks on this as the game progresses. That's nothing. 60 bonus damage on Stormbolt, and you've played the entire game wrong, not enabling your DPS, not enabling kills, but just thinking selfishly about auto-attacking people without any threat or game plan. That's bad gameplay. It makes tanks play bad. It's weak. So change it. The rest I think is fine. Diablo. Well, I think Diablo could use the buff of not using his souls. Choose whether you want to revive on the souls or not. Give him autonomy in that so that you don't lose your souls when you know you're going to die and you don't want to come back yet because there's no rush. However, giving such a gameplay decision to players is a big buff, and he's already quite strong under certain circumstances. So for the rest, I would just nerf his survivability a bit. He can delete people, he can CC people so much that he barely gets attacked back. So he doesn't need to be one of the most survivable heroes in the game as well. On top of that, that can also come back to life. So you give him a choice here, which is a buff, and then you nerf his survivability. HotS, little weak right now. Don't know how to buff. Yeah, Icebound is a must, which makes Rune Tap useless. Yeah, I don't know. Like, he has some interesting talents. He just feels weak. He suffered from mobility creep. But I don't know how to fix that exactly. I've forgotten about HotS. Maybe he needs a rework. I wouldn't mind an HotS rework, even though when you look at his build, it looks decent. Anub'arak. Remove Rewind. It's way too good. Delete it. Delete Rewind. Do anything else you want, but just remove that. Johanna. Nice skins, by the way. Is this a joke? Okay. Well, anyway, Johanna, I think Blessed Shield can be buffed. It's really weak. Stun the first target for 175 and stun the rest for 1. Then she'll be good as a tank. And I think that's it. No, it's not it. 5 more. Mei. I think Mei's in a good spot. Mei feels really powerful and overpowered, except she cannot flip the switch on deleting someone that oversteps the same way that a Anub'arak, a Diablo, or an ETC can. That's her weakness. For the rest, she seems quite strong. Mal'Ganis. I think Mei can be kept for now. She's pretty cool. Mal'Ganis. Yeah. Mal'Ganis' main weakness is that people will wake up the sleep targets and not draft around him. He also is vulnerable to CC. I don't know that that should be changed. He's quite unique in that he can sleep loads of people, and he can be really survivable under the right circumstances. For Mal'Ganis, I think he's a little underpowered at the moment. Possibly in order to make him better, just give him 4% bonus auto attack damage. He's got that whole vamp aura, auto attack talent kind of thing. He's got the CC, he's vulnerable to CC. We don't see him a lot. Just give him 4% bonus auto attack damage and see how that plays out. It's gonna make more people play him if anything, and then we'll get more data. Blaze. In a pretty good spot right now, honestly. Quite strong. Doesn't get picked all the time. Garrosh. Actually a bit lower win rate than you would think. He seems really powerful, but he drops off in the late game. You can also zone him really well with certain heroes. People that lose to Garrosh are playing badly into Garrosh. but he is very strong at protecting backline. Because he doesn't have mobility to buff himself, and he has a certain range, he can be counterplayed. I think he's powerful, but I'm not sure that he needs a nerf right now. Tanks also still need to remain fun to play. Cho'Gall, not much to say about him. You can't play him outside of coordinated. So I can't say whether he needs a buff or a nerf. Probably not a buff. And that's it. Let's go play.